Hello, and welcome to my podcast, The Melancholy Guy Talks. And right now, I'm talking about recovery, living with addiction. In this podcast, I'm sharing my journey through life while being an open, polyamorous African American male living in recovery. I am the Melancholy Guy, Calvin, or CPJR if you know me. And today, I definitely believe that change I must or die I will. To learn more about the Melancholy Guy, go to Instagram and click the link in the bio. Also, with a donation of just $1, you can have access to my first series on ethical non-monogamy, the fun stuff that started my podcast journey. See my Patreon page for more info. Links will be in the show notes. So let's talk. Today is 3/15/2020, and it's been 57 days since I felt the need to pick up my drug of choice. Today's episode is my first 90 days, part 6. For the remainder of March, as well as the month of April, I will have a weekly topic that will be aired in 15-minute increments. One released on Sunday, tonight, and the second half released on Thursday. So be sure to tune in for both. Alright, so welcome back to the podcast for those that have listened before, and welcome to those who are just getting here. So I'm going to talk about, I'm going to continue a talk that I started last week about social engagements. One of the steps that you should take to have a better chance on your recovery in the first 90 days was limit your social engagements. And I'm going to read a bit about that. A well-rounded and healthy recovery process includes time for seeing friends and getting out to enjoy recreational and educational activities. But the first few weeks of recovery isn't the time for jamming up your social calendar. In fact, strive for the opposite. While you certainly can and should see some of your close friends and go out to a movie or two, for the most part, during the first 90 days, you will want to stay close to home or invite close friends and family over to visit. There'll be plenty of time down the line to ramp up your social life when you're more confident of your ability to effectively maintain your recovery in all situations. All right, so I talked about last week how one of the things that I did in my recovery was I would basically, if I relapsed or used, in my case used, there was no relapse, I was just using, I would automatically just jump back into my life, which at the time which at the time involved a lot of ethical monogamy. And so I would jump back into the groups and I would start immediately dating, booking trips. I would start going on attending meetups and all that kind of stuff, without not taking the time to process what happened or who I hurt or what damage I did with my continued use, which is like not setting myself up or not giving my parents any time to like recover. And so one of the things that I said, or one of the things that came to mind when I said that was, I don't think I was the only one. In fact, I know I wasn't the only one. And then it was kind of weird to me that sometimes in those groups, I actually would tell people that I did have an addiction. Some I didn't tell, and basically, some of the people didn't seem to care, or thought that they didn't seem to care. It wasn't a problem, or that they could actually save me or help me. I don't remember anybody really asking me too much what an addiction was or where I was, or sometimes I would just give a glib answer as to like where I don't count my days or anything like that. And I think it's something that I want to emphasize and put out there, that if you're dealing with people in groups or online, offline, that if someone tells you that they're an addict or they have an issue, any other type of mental issue, they're bipolar. Because I did have someone tell me they were bipolar. once that you take time to study that, that you know who you're dealing with, because at that point, um, you have a decision to make. You know what I'm saying? You can make it. You can either just make a decision off the top of your head and say, I don't care, I'm gonna deal with this person because I really like them, I like their energy and all this kind of stuff, and that energy could be crazy, crazy, whatever mess feeding into your whatever craziness, and then that'll feed into something else I'm gonna talk about in a minute. But if you take the time to look up addiction, find out what addiction is, find out what recovery looks like, find out what somebody is doing in recovery, then you'll be better informed, for one thing, to find out what you're getting yourself into, and also you could be helping them. One of the things that's probably bad is that some addicts can't find places to hide. You know what I'm saying? And alcoholics also, because of social media, can't find places to keep going from person to person and not really ever have to tackle their addiction. So there's this thing called enabling that's heard about and talked about a lot in recovery or addictions, and you basically, I guess that's a kind of enabling if you think about it. You know what I mean? If you're providing yourself to be a friend to someone who isn't addicted, or who is an addict or is an alcoholic, you're kind of like enabling that behavior to continue by giving them, buying them drinks or going to have drinks with them. Or maybe you need to look at your behavior because maybe you got some issues you need to deal with because you're comfortable with being around someone that's an addict or an alcoholic. Not passing any judgment, just saying that, just kind of know. That's the first point of my that I want to make tonight, is just know who you're dealing with, know what you're getting yourself into, because you're gonna enable them. And then you have to look out for this thing that's called codependency. I'm not a mental health expert at all. All I know, but I've been in a lot of relationships, and I kind of understand. I think I kind of understand what codependency is. I was married twice. Both of my, and I'm telling now, I don't know, I'm going to put it out there. I don't really, not say I don't care, but it's kind of important for me to, I guess, process it. So I was married twice, and each time that I did get married, it was known before I got married that I had an addiction issue, an issue that I was dealing with, and both times we proceeded, and the relationships lasted, however long they lasted, but all through the relationship, the addiction was a part of it. You know what I mean? I would either be, either trying to stay clean or be clean, or I would, be in some type of relapse mode. I was in rehabs, I was in intensive outpatient groups, and it was affecting them too, to some extent because of what was going on. And that gets into what's called codependency, and it's not healthy for either person. And I guess once you get into that codependency state, it's like a spiral. And I don't know. I guess today both of them are okay. Or everybody I dealt with is okay, I hope, and I pray. But that's one thing you need to look out for. So for me, I'm scared as hell to deal with it. If I tell, I guess for me right now, if I tell you that I'm an addict and you say okay, and you ask me, well, how you doing with it, and I give you a glib answer, or I say some of the stuff I used to say, I don't know, I'm okay, when they say, well, how many days you been clean, blah blah blah, I don't really count days. That's some bullshit I would say. I would run from you because I don't want to be in a codependent. You know what I'm saying? That wouldn't be healthy for me. So that's just something that you want to look out for. You want to make sure you know who you're dealing with, and you definitely want to be careful of ending up in a codependent type of situation where you both might spiral into something that you definitely don't want to end up in type of bad relationship or being damaged one person damaging the other. And you don't want to. I guess you don't want to enable people. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be involved in. You don't want to be involved in something that's gonna really hurt you in the end. Because here's another point that I think I've put in there. There's no way, period, that you can build a relationship with an active addict. Okay, a lot of places out on the internet. I'm in a lot of like Facebook groups that deal with addiction, and a lot of groups and things like that. And even my ex-wife number 2 asked me, what would I do if I was, in a relationship or got married to an addict? And at the time, I told her I don't know. I told her I don't know what I would do, and that was sincere. I actually didn't know at the time, but years later, now sitting here where I'm sitting now, really understanding what recovery is all about, I would tell her that I would just walk away. If someone told me that they were an active addict and they weren't in any recovery, verifiable recovery, since I know what addiction is and I can see what they're doing on a daily basis to keep themselves clean and to put themselves, like, recovery is like every day, right? It's a program that you have to have in place every day. And if I don't see that in their life every day, I'm walking away, because there's nothing that I can build. An addict's first relationship is to their drug, and it's not their fault, right? It's nothing against. It's like a cancer patient. It's like you feel like you're dealing with a cancer patient who refuses to go to chemotherapy. You know what I'm saying? Or refuses to take anything, or refuse any type of medicine that the doctor wants to give them. They're basically choosing to die, right? They're choosing to let the cancer win and to die, and it's the same thing. You can choose to walk with them to death, you know what I'm saying, and go through that pain of them dying, but realize that's what you're choosing. So that's all I'm saying. But if you're trying to build a life that's going to be happy and fulfilling for the both of you, it's just not going to work. It's going to hurt. It's going to be painful in the end. It's going to be in the part 1 for today. Thanks for listening. And I always want to, every show, take time out, or every part of a show, or every segment, increment, take time out for the soul-suffering addict. Because for me, that's important. I always get a little choked up. I always think about, wow. I always, just think about what it is to be like caught up in addiction. It's tough. And if you're out there and you don't know what to do, you can always just, go talk to someone. You can always, like I say, hit me up. Go to intherooms.com if you want to look for some online resources or meetings. To get some help, because you never have to use. I used to think this was the corniest shit I used to hear when I used to go to meetings. You don't have to use, one day at a time, and that's actually true. Once you decide that you want to recover, you don't have to use one day at a time. So if you have any questions about living with recovery, or just need someone to talk to, drop me an email at cpiercejr@gmail.com, and I'll respond to you and see if I can answer your question either through the email or on the next episode. I also want to thank my first patron. Through Patreon, I have one. Allison, thank you very much. Thank you for your support that you've always given me through being online and listening to the podcast. I really appreciate you. And with that, always remember to love and respect yourself first, and everything else will take care of itself. Peace and namaste.